having, thank you. Thank you. To having, being completely bedridden and having to be fed and changed daily within 18 months. So I took a step back from my team and was there with my brothers and my mom helping out in the house. So I'd wake up at 4 a.m. every morning, start my day off at my parents' house with the home care nurse, and end my day at around 8 o'clock, because I was doing work in between, making sure that the first thing I did was be with my dad, and the last thing I did in the evening was be with my dad. And then I would be home at midnight and I would start all over. So I definitely was wearing thin. One of the things was I was really excited about is I had a really good team with systems. So I'm not a systems person, but I am goal oriented. So I don't really care about systems, but I know systems work for the goals I want. So my SC people on my team really love that about me, right? Because as far as I was concerned, I was like, well, this get us where we need to go. Yes, then let's do it. But I wasn't concerned about the minutia and details. And we'll kind of dive into that. So anyway, then I started helping other agents in the office. I was in an ALC, which was really awesome. And one of the investors said, have you ever thought about being on leadership? And the first thing I said was, no, I've seen what you guys do, not gonna happen. And so I went on my merry way, still helping out the office and things of that nature when I could. About a year later, I started thinking, well, maybe I was asked again. I was like, well, maybe, I don't know. You know how Keller Williams is. They're always like, they'll put a little nugget in your ear and then they'll tap you a little bit more. And next thing you know, I told one person, well, maybe I'll consider being a team leader one day. And I got a call 48 hours later from a market center in Sugar Land, Houston. It's a suburb out in Houston, to interview for an assistant team leader position. One thing led to another. We did a career visioning process, which many of you know what that means. And I was their assistant team leader. My dad was still sick at that time. He actually passed away about a year later in my tenureship as an assistant team leader. We grew that market center from 400 to 550 in about 19 to 20 months. So, and now that market center is still kicking butt. They're still doing awesome. I've met really great people there. Then I had an opportunity to become a team leader out in Chicago, and then I became a team leader here. So I have really loved it. I think I love Florida. I used to vacation here all the time, so I'm kind of excited living where I used to vacate. I love getting to know all of my agents. They're amazing. And I'm actually getting enjoyed to learn a lot of you guys. I've had an opportunity to hang out over in the Lakewood Ranch office sometimes and meet you guys, and it's been really fun. So that's just a little bit about me. So kind of know like, who is this chick teaching today? If you hadn't met me before, I'm super casual, 100% transparent. If you have any questions, just put in the chat line. If you want to talk some more offline, you know where to find me. Also, just let you guys know, I work out in Inglewood, but I actually live in Sarasota. So I live next to UTC Mall. So I get a long drive where I get to listen to awesome podcasts. So if you're a podcaster like me and you want to know some awesome podcasts, text me, I have them for you. Okay, so we're gonna get on to lead gen now that you're kind of like, can we get on to the show? Especially if you're a D, you're like, what's going on? So I kind of wanna tell you guys what we'll be focusing on today, right? So one is, I love stats, right? Because stats will let me know what's going on, how I can best utilize my time. So I thought this might be cool. So I plugged some stats in for you. So we're gonna go over stats in the very beginning. So what did 2020 look like in terms of profiles for home buyers and sellers? Then we're gonna go into models and mindset. And we're gonna concentrate on your 3 key areas, right, for you to focus on, right? Our brain, I always say, my team knows, I said, my brain only has so much real estate space, right? So what are the 3 key areas? Then we're gonna kind of review and discuss what the lead generation model is. Now, we all kind of know what that means. Pretty much when I say lead generation model, type it in the chat or tell me here, what does that mean to you when I say lead generation model? Wow, don't everyone talk at once. Come on, guys.
Well, I'll speak to that.
Okay.
The most obvious answer is that you produce leads to lead to business and success and growing your business. However, with that said, that's pretty much all I know.
Okay.
Because although I was a real estate agent in another state for a couple decades, I was not a Keller Williams agent. So that's part of the reason why I'm so excited that you're teaching this today, because I really need some serious, specific knowledge on what lead generation is and how I can maximize it to grow my business.
Yeah, that's good. You know, when I think of lead gen, just to be kind of really blunt, I think of the 36 touch that I never plan out. Right. And then I think lead generation means I have to pick up the phone and call for 3 hours every morning. And so I love that you're thinking really big, because lead generation just basically means what is the goals that you had set in your business, right? So it's kind of like I always say, if you read one of my favorite books, Fierce Conversations, there's like really 4 questions at the beginning of the book. It says, so the first question is, where do you want to go? Right? Then the next question is, why do you want to get there? Who do you want in your journey? And how are you going to do it? Right? So how are you going to get there? Lead gen is the how, right? So the first thing is an economic model where we discuss like, what are your numbers? Where you want to, what do you want to do? And lead gen just is mapping out how you're going to get there. Because what happens when you don't map things out? Like, have we ever gotten a car and not know where we want to go? Right? If we know where we want to go, but we don't know how to get there, what is our next tool that we use? Your iPhone, if you have navigation. Someone there said, what, Trisha, you were going to say something?
I just said GPS.
Yeah, your GPS. So I'm not going to get confusing because we have a terminology GPS for planning, but basically your navigation system, right? So your lead generation model is simply your navigation system. And here is a model that we get to curate today to fit wherever you want to go, right? So I'm a big believer of the MREA. I'll even show you, this is my MREA book right here that I got in 2009 that I still have. And so I have read this and reread this, and I like to go back to it because I look at it as a manual. So if you have your MREA, we are on page 133 is that lead generation tool for you. And so sometimes I'll point some things out here, but mainly if you don't have it, don't worry about it. You won't be lost today by any means. I just like to show like, this is where we get it, because all of our trainings actually come from the MREA book. We just interpret it to like market of the moment. Okay. All right. Then we're going to create your own lead gen plan, right? I like classes. Classes are great, but if I don't put this plan into action, then nothing's going to happen. So at the end, it's going to be more interactive for us to say, okay, what are the 2 or 3 things that I can actually do to implement my lead generation plan? All right. So now let's get into some numbers. Okay, so the numbers I got for you guys was from the National Association of Realtors, right? And so this is a profile of home buyers and sellers. One of the things I'm going to highly recommend, and I did this, is the National Association of Realtors does a really, really good job of pulling data, extracting it, and making it into a huge book. So this is the book that they have for us as realtors. And it is about little under 200 pages of different graphs and charts and explanations of what is real estate, what does it look like? It paints this huge picture for you. There's a lot of information that you can pull to use in your listing appointments, in your buyer consultation appointments. And right now, right, we're getting into the last quarter of the year, and the last quarter is our new year for 2022. So when you're planning 2022 out, you can start pulling that out and going, okay, well, what did 2020 look like? So that way, because 2020 will play some part of it because of COVID. So here's just some really cool stats for you to think about. One, y'all can read them, I'm not going to read them all for you. If you want more information on this, I can literally just send y'all the PDF that I got it from. So you won't need to have the slides. All right, buyers typically search for 8 weeks and looked at a median of 9 homes and then viewed 5 of these homes online. What I actually liked here was 18% of recent home buyers were veterans and 2% were active duty service members. One thing I will say, because the recent news, I'm thinking that this might go up a little more, especially in the Florida area, right? Because a lot of our servicemen and women are now coming home. What will they be doing? Will they be going back into active duty? Will some of them decide that they want to retire? Or what does that mean? So I wouldn't be surprised if this is an uptick, and there might be an opportunity for some of you as well. So this is the things you can be thinking about. How do these numbers play into my business? 15% of buyers purchase a new home. 85% of buyers purchase a previously owned home. Now then, this statistic is nationwide. I wouldn't be surprised, particularly in the Lakewood Ranch area, if there is some new, if the numbers are a little bit higher for new home buys, okay? This is interesting. The share of home buyers who use the internet to search for a home increased an all-time high of 97%.
Wow.
What does that say to you as, and put in the chat bar, what does that say to you as lead gen? What are some opportunities when you see 97% of home buyers?
Social media is critical.
That means that maybe you should be looking into your social media. Is there a way for you to beef that up or more intention in that, right? If they're starting there, that's only 3%. Now then, this 97%, guys, includes our amazing beloved senior citizens as well. I know that we say, oh, my grandmother or my uncle or my friends, retirees, they're not on internet as much. Well, this statistic showing that they're on there somewhat more than we think. Okay, here's something else. Okay, let's go into sellers. The typical home seller was 56 years old last year. I don't know if I put it in here, but the age of a home buyer was, let's see here, kind of, I have that one. The age of a home buyer, I cannot read in the dark. I am getting older. Oh, it was 47 years old. Okay, so the age of a home buyer average is 47, 56 for a seller. Here's something, 89% of home sellers worked with a real estate agent to sell their home. The actual number went up higher than the previous year. What I loved was how many of you guys have felt like statistics show that during a seller's market that we're in, right? What do we usually have come out? For sale by owners, right? And a lot of us have been saying, at least in this area, that we've seen an increase in for sale by owners. Well, guess what? Only 8% of recent home sales were for sale by owners. 8%. So what does that say? That people are still using agents, right? Here's some additional for sale by owners statistics that I thought was rather interesting. Is 81% of successful for sale by owner sellers who knew the buyer were very satisfied with the process of selling their home. And it said here that for sale by owner homes sold more quickly on the market plan agent assisted homes, and 71% of for sale by homeowners sold in less than 2 weeks when they knew the buyer. So for sale by owners are getting their home sold when they know the buyer. When they don't have a buyer in place or they don't know who it is, they end up going back to an agent. We have one agent here who was telling me yesterday that she's getting so much business right now from for sale by owners. They're going out, they're trying, they're not getting the reaction that they're hearing. It's interesting. Okay, buyers who purchase, okay, so here are some COVID stats for you. And there's a lot more in here, but I won't go over them. So you'll have some homework to go on your own and look at them. So buyers who purchase after March have a shorter expected tenure in their home that they purchased, just 10 years compared to those who purchased before the pandemic who expect to own their home for 15 years. So what this is saying is that when you're looking at your database and you're looking at everyone who you sold a home to, they become sellers earlier than expected. This one was really interesting. Buyers who purchased after March of 2020 searched just 2 weeks before working with an agent compared to those who purchased pre-pandemic who searched for 3 weeks before an agent. So something for you to consider is, oh my gosh, they're actually moving faster. So I need to be faster myself. Okay. So those are just some stats I kind of want to give you guys right beforehand off the bat. So I hope you enjoyed my little stat thing. So one of the things of, like I said earlier, is, we have to talk about models and systems, right? So there's many different models out there, correct? But when we look at models and systems and the reasons why, it's really because planning, like if you think about when you use your creativity before a model, then what do we know might usually happen? There's no true guarantee it's going to work because your creativity hasn't been proven yet, right? But the model has been proven. So first you know the model, and then you add in your own curated, amazing self to develop it and adapt it towards you, because what we're looking for is success. When we do it the other way around, we actually create an unstable market. Thank you very much. So it's kind of one of those things, follow in other people's footsteps. If you, what I wrote down as my notes is, if you begin with creativity and then try to add a model, or if you try to add creativity to a model you haven't fully implemented, then you risk rendering the model completely ineffective. Okay, so the truth is when you add creativity to a practice and proven model, you'll always have a much greater chance of achieving your highest possible results. And aren't we here to achieve results, right? Because the results we have will fund our perfect life, and whatever your big why is. And since we're not talking about big whys, we're not going to go into that today. It's a whole other class. So, and the next thing I just kind of want to think about is, most of us know this, is that E to P. Thank you so much. You're amazingly sweet. Okay. Now that, oh, and there's my voice. Do you hear it? It's all like, oh, anyway. Okay. So models give us two critical things. They give you business stability and breakthrough strategy. So business stability is really good in every single market, right? I mean, you need your business to be stable, and yet because when the market fluctuates, which it will always do, there's never a time, since I've been in this business since 2009 and before in commercial, has it just stayed on course. There's always an expectation that it will change. You're going to need the stability in order to have that breakthrough. If not, you're just going to have chaos whenever the market changes. So you need to have a stable business, so that way you can focus on that pivot and breaking through your own achievement of your own ceiling of achievement. Because no matter how gifted you are, right, it's natural ability. So we will all eventually hit our own ceiling of achievement. There is no if, it's just a matter of when that'll happen, right? I mean, if we're looking right now, if you look at all the Olympians, because then, well, for me, I'm still coming off the high of watching the Olympics. It was kind of cool. They all still had coaches. I mean, they're Olympians and they still had coaches. Why? They're still mastering, they're still reaching through a breakthrough. Because once they achieved one thing, they mastered it and became part of their natural ability, they wanted to get to the next level, they needed to break through it again. And that's basically what that is. Over and over and over again. So a little pop quiz for you. Oops, wrong thing here. Which personal perspective did the graph that we just show represent? Type it in the chat box if y'all know it. I'm hoping y'all know that. I'm gonna put it back here. What does this graph right here represent? And you have your options. Is it be learning based? Is it moving from E to P? Commitment. Correct. Moving from E to P, moving from entrepreneurial to purposeful. And so that's what our lead gen is about, right? Because we have some natural abilities that we're really good at that we kind of like, right? But we're going to have to kind of reconsider moving from our natural ability in our lead gen to more purposeful. For me, my best lead gen, and I'll talk about this later, was I did 4 events a year. 4 events a year, and I knew to a T, well, in the beginning, I'm just a gregarious person. I like going out and meeting people. I was a part of a sorority, a junior league, all these events and all these organizations, and I would just talk and hang out with people, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna get my business. And that only lasted me to a certain number. And then I had to take my natural ability and turn that into intention, which then came into doing 4 events a year. And how do I purposely do that? Still, my natural ability is there, but now my purposeful part was changing that into a business strategy. So most great achievements in life are a result of thinking big and aiming high. Small goals tend to place limits on our potential. So we tend to slow down once we get within reach. I love this little thing. So here it is. So we always say, think big and act small, but really, why is that? Because when we act small, when we think small and we have small goals, then when we get close to that goal, our body will tend to slow down because we're getting there and we're getting there. But when your target, right, is bigger than your goal, then what you're doing is you're developing the skills for that, which makes reaching your goal that much easier and simpler. So it's not saying I'm just going to have this crazy goal of I want to make $1 billion one day. No, that's not realistic, is it? Well, I shouldn't say realistic. I don't want to limit anyone's belief. We can have a really good stretch goal, right? To a target. So that way, when we get to that goal, we're hitting it. We can break that down to small increments. So now we're developing the skills to master. And then, so the MREA is the same way. Now, do you know your potential? So let's imagine for a moment that you've decided to climb this first mountain. Your goal is Mount Whitney in California, right? You see the elevation here is around, I don't know meters. So for all of those who are from outside countries, and we have a lot of them, it's 14,000 feet, right? Then you have your target is Mount Everest in Nepal, 29,000 feet. So by setting Mount Everest as your target, you ensure that you will know all the systems and skills necessary to pull you easily through your goal. And that's basically what that is. So the truth is, if you set your path toward climbing Mount Everest and only get halfway up the mountain, you will still be in the top 1% of the highest mountain climbers in the world. So here's something that I just want to stress to you that I wrote is stress the following points about your goals. Most agents set goals too low. Achieved goals are set too low. So if you're always achieving your goal, oh, I hit my goal, I hit my goal, I hit my goal, then it was too low. Then you played it safe, basically is what I'm hearing. So don't set goals too low. On the other hand, setting big goals will allow you to build a career worth having, a business worth owning, lives worth leaving, and legacies worth leaving, right? Give worthy experiences and create that amazing business that you want. So here's some things that I know. Like I always like to start every training with like your mindset, because we all come in here with different mindsets. Here's one: I can't do it. Right? Until you try, you can't possibly know that you can or you can't do it. So that's that self-coaching. If I could hit my goal this year, how would I do it? It can't be done in my market. How many of you guys have said or heard someone at Mega Camp, Family Reunion, or another market, another agent that you've met in another state, and you go, oh my gosh, that can never be done in my market? Have y'all ever thought that before or heard someone say that? You're thinking about my numbers? You could totally do that. My numbers are not that hard to get. People have achieved much more than my numbers. And the thing is, the truth is it can be done, but what we're doing is when we say it can't be done in my market, we're not asking the right questions.
Mhm.
It's not that it can't be done. We need to ask ourselves how, right?
Mhm.
So I always say when I'm coaching my agents, it's kind of like you're driving on a road. I know I talked to you about this. You're driving on a road and you see a roadblock and it says you can't go this way,
Mhm.
right? So the question shouldn't be, oh, I'm just going to turn around. I mean, the answer shouldn't be, okay, I'm going to turn around, go home.
Mhm.
The question should be, if not this way, then how?
Mhm.
Is it this way?
Mhm.
Is it this way? Which way?
Mhm.
Because when we say no, it can't be done, we've blocked all possibilities. We've just basically limited ourselves
Yeah.
to not thinking. And now we're thinking about what I'm going to do when I get home instead.
Yeah, that's a self-inflicted roadblock. It's
Absolutely.
not or not willing to
Right.
put in the work.
Because if someone's doing it in their market,
Mhm.
then it can be done in yours.
Absolutely.
My mom and dad were probably one of many. So I'm first generation American. My parents are from Haiti. And as most first generation American children, they have parents who have these crazy expectations that they should be A++ students at all times. So I would, every time I came home with something that was not an A+, my mom would say, oh, who got an A in your class? And I would say something like, oh, Susie Q got the A. It's like, oh, does Susie Q have two heads? I didn't know she had two heads. I'm like, no, she doesn't have two heads. And she's like, well, the only difference between you and Susie Q should be that she has two heads, or you would have gotten that A too. So there is no difference between one market and another. It's one person tried harder. One person said it can be done, right? And so just consider yourself saying, if not this way, then how? How can that be done in our market? Because you're going to hear a lot of, I'm a big believer of going to these events, seeing what someone else is doing and coming back and, oh, that's a great idea. Okay, let me see how I can implement. Does it fit into my plan? And if so, how can I create it and curate it to my market? I keep hitting that wrong button. Okay. It would take too much time and effort. That is such a myth, right? The truth is time and effort are not just deciding or are not just deciding factors of success. Think of time and effort differently. Do the best you can with the time that you devote to your business. And when it takes you as far as you can, then you have a leverage issue. So I know that we're talking about this, especially with our teams, right? So if there's your business have one of two issues, system or person, which one is it? When you're a solo agent or a new agent, it's a system first, usually. It's developing a system. And then once you get trucking that system and you fine tune it, then it becomes a leverage situation to where it becomes a person. So it's not really about it takes too much time and effort. It's about, do I have a system problem or do I have a person problem? And if so, how do I deal with that? It's too risky, I'll lose money. Now then, I will say this, most of my new agents know when they come in, we do the economic model with them. We sit down, we do the economic model, the budget model, we do all the models to figure out what's going on. And then we go back to lead gen like we're doing today, right? Most of my agents, you should have done that too. And if you haven't done that with me, then you're in trouble when you have a consulting appointment. And because it's not about, if you lose money, then what you're not doing, you're not looking at your budget. Your budget, your P&L statement, you should be looking at weekly because it's easy to make corrections weekly than it is to make a correction at the end of every month, right? And so the risk is a direct proportion of how well you hold your incremental costs accountable and producing incremental results. It's okay to step back a little and move slowly in order to move fast. Having a goal and not fulfilling it is a negative thing. The truth is, your clients aren't loyal to you. They're loyal. What? Nope. Sorry about that. I pulled that slide out because I didn't like that slide for this purpose. The myth is having a goal and not fulfilling it is a negative thing. A bad idea is not having a goal. A bad idea is waking up 5 years later and figuring out, how did I get here? A bad idea is not living with intention, because within 5 years, if you think back 5 years of your life, most likely your life has made a 180 of where you are in some form or fashion. So it will happen intentionally or not intentionally. Studies have shown we will change every 5 years in some way. So what if we took the time and did it with intention, and we woke up 5 years like, oh, whoa, I cannot believe my life. I've done this the last 5 years, right? So how much better would I be even if you failed? The one thing I've learned about, especially stepping in the role of a team leader, is always being uncomfortable and being vulnerable and trying new things every single time. And as an agent, especially those of us who have written out a goal and who are starting brand new, or this is your second year and you're kind of like, I did great my first year, or not so great, and now I'm going to move forward. Or those of us who've been tenured and we're kind of like, you know what, I'm actually going to implement some things. That's a really vulnerable time. That same thought's going to be there until you implement something. It's not going to go away because you've already thought about it. Once you think about something, you can't unthink it anymore. So we might as well put some intentionality into that, right? And kind of like, instead of just failing, you know, that awesome book, Failing Forward, how can I just fail forward, right? I mean, when an inventor invents something, he doesn't master it the first time and go, here you go. When you open up a business, McDonald's didn't become McDonald's just overnight like that. So I'm really, my agents right now who I talk to a lot are getting really mad at me always talking about food, because I recently watched the History Channel Food That Built America. So you might hear a lot of food references. So I'm just telling you all right now, there are some amazing food restaurant businesses that really amazed me about how they started. But that grit and tenacity, it was about having a goal and moving forward. Here's one thing that I see a lot, especially living in this amazing, especially living here in Florida, because Florida is beautiful. And we have so many people who vacation here and retire here. And you can just look out into the beautiful bay or the beach and be like, I don't need that much. I'm just gonna go to the beach, hang out, you know, sit in my lanai. I don't need that much, right? Now let me ask you this. In 2019, walking into 2020, how many people who said they didn't need that much and all of a sudden didn't have a job wish that they said something different? Unless you have a crystal ball, it's not that you don't need that much, is that we need more than enough just in case. So I think someone's off mute. If you can put yourself on mute, I would really appreciate that. So just kind of recapping on our myth understandings. And so this is in the first part of the MREA. That's why I like to always have that, is which one are you grappling with right now when it comes to your lead generation? I can't do it. It can't be done in my market. It would take too much time and effort. It's too risky. I'll lose money. My clients will only work with me. I don't think that's an issue right now for the lead gen, but it might be for you when it comes to leveraging off. Having a goal and not fulfilling it is a negative thing, or it's not necessary. I don't need it. And if you want, I would love to hear your response in the chat room of which ones that you think that you're grappling with when it comes to lead generation. Heather says having a goal and not fulfilling it. Yeah,
I hate goals
you hate goals, and why is that?
because I'm so hard on myself to begin with that I feel like if I set a goal, it's not going to be enough. And if I don't meet it, I would be so mad at myself that I would do everything I could and I kill myself in the process to make it happen.
Okay, so you are, okay, let's reframe that, right? So you're saying, and if I'm hearing you correctly, is that you don't want to not hit your goals.
Yep.
And how do you succeed in not hitting your goals?
Well, if I don't set them, I can't not hit it.
If you don't set them, you can't hit them. Okay, so what's more important to you? Not hitting goals, like not setting goals, or having the life by design that you want for you?
That's the trick.
Because to me, a goal isn't really about the goal, it's about the life that I want, right? Okay. So really quickly so this means that we need to think competitively and strategically. This is a competitive market. If any of y'all had put in the chat room yes or no if y'all attended Mega Camp. One of the great things, I know you ladies did here, great. One of the great things about Mega Camp, what did they say? And Mega Camp was really surprising. It was that here we are, we have the most amount of new agents coming into the business than ever before. So there's a lot of people who aren't blessed with being part of Keller Williams or being a part of training, but now you're competing with them on listing appointments. Now you're competing with them on buyer consultations. Not only are you competing against to get their business, you're also needing to deal with the scar tissue of once they've lost that business and you have it. And now that client is like, well, this is what the last agent told me and I don't want to deal with this, right? So when you think competitively and strategically, you actually approach your career in a way of a game. Just gamify it, right? Let's play to win. My leadership team, it's just think of one person in particular, when I go, oh, we should make a game out of it. He's like, no, we shouldn't. I'm like, yes, we just gamify it. Let's just make it some fun. Let's get creative about it, right? We're here 8 hours a day. Let's have some fun and let's win some awards. And then think action and accountability. You know that when you know what to do, there comes a point when you just want to shut up, get up and just giddy up and just do it, right? So when you write your goals down, you're 39% more likely to achieve them. So if I just have to write down what I want, I get there's a 39% more I probably achieve it. I'm writing the sucker down, right? And then when you add in the accountability piece, you are more likely to achieve it. One of the things that I did, I thought was amazing, was I didn't have accountability group. So in my 3rd year in the business, I found some ladies I really enjoyed working with. And I go, let's just have an accountability group. We weren't sure what that meant. We just heard it a lot at KW. We met once a month. And pretty soon we're like, okay, let's bring our numbers. We would talk about things, personal things that got in the way, but it was a really great safe haven. And then it organically, whenever we needed help in different things, they would be able to help us. We all surpassed our goals within 2 to 3 years, and half of us became leaders in some way within Keller Williams, and that was never the intention. But that support system, accountability towards those goals, really made that difference. And then for those of you who are actually looking at, okay, you know what, I am not a solo agent anymore, right? I have a team. Well, what does that mean? So you think talent, systems, and standards. Well, when you're a solo agent, like I said earlier, right, you are about your systems. Well, then when you are building your team, it's about your standards that are about defining the levels of performance when holding yourself accountable to meeting and exceeding those levels. So when you're one person in your business, your challenge is to find, implement, and articulate those standards as your value proposition, right? But when you have a team, your challenge is to define those standards and to live them and to hold your team accountable to them as well. To me, I think one of the best teams that I have seen is when they do that daily stand-up every day, like we do in leadership. And then they use 4 conversations. We would use 4 conversations for my team. And the 4 conversations every single day was another conversation that we would have. And on Fridays morning, we would look at everything that we closed that week and said, how can we show up better? It was a job well done. Sometimes it wasn't that great, but we always were, how can we show up better? And we would have that conversation at the end, because there's 4 conversations that will be our Friday. And it was then always going back to those standards. So we would look at our appointments, was that first day. How are we showing up in our appointments? Are we meeting our goals? Are we hitting our target? Where's that gap? Then the second was what the second day on Tuesday, we would focus on our listings. And then on Friday, on Wednesday would be about, again, your solds, right? And then it'll be about the price. We look at our price point, things of that nature. And then on Friday, we will look at all of our inventory and we will look at where can we just show up better, which means that do we need a change in implementation? Do we need to start hiring someone? What does that look like? And I sold my team with my working partner, and they still do this to this day, 3 years later. And then Think Grit. So one of my favorite books, and most of y'all heard it, it's a grit book. It's a really, really great book. I highly recommend it. And then you have Charles DeWitt on mindset, right? So the 7th way to think about is to think grit. That's just self-control is grit. So the more you think about your talent and IQ, the harder you work towards achieving your long-term goals and the more dedicated you are towards reaching it, right? The more successful you'll be in achieving the goal. Whether or not you have an innate talent to help you along the way, that's not the point, right? One of the myths, I think, especially for new agents, so this myth holds, I have seen in 2 ways, one for a new agent and one for an agent who just built a team. They think my level of success, once I started with Keller, I've done a little bit of training, it's going to go zoop like a rocket, right? Just going to go straight up there. Or, you know what? I got my assistant now, straight up there. We're just going to go. And really, let's have it some reality, right? Let's just be a little bit pragmatic about it. It kind of goes like a hockey stick because it's new. You're going to be failing forward. So give yourself the grace, especially when we talk about lead gen, of knowing it's not like I implemented this and now I'm going to sail through. One of the funniest stories I can tell you is when I first started doing lead generation and I decided I'm going to do postcards. And I kid you not, I got some amazing postcards. I sent it out to the certain neighborhood that I wanted to farm. And I went back home and I was like, the next 3 or 4 days, I'm gonna get phone calls. This is my first year in the business. I sent 1 group of postcards and I was expecting manna from heaven. I mean, really. But that's how we think about things, right? I'm just gonna do this 1 droplet and then it's all gonna come. 1, give yourself some grace, knowing that you need to put some hard work into it. You might have to fumble along the way and that's okay. But when you test something and try it out, basically you're getting better to really kind of go. And then all of a sudden it's going to shift. You're going to be like, where did all this business come from? Like we see agents who are killing it. Like, wow, where did that happen? We think it happened overnight. And they're like, oh no, it didn't happen. Y'all didn't see me 5 or 6 months ago, just testing things out, throwing noodle to the wall, right? Seeing if it would stick. So for lead generation, there's nothing unintentional about lead generation. Everything you do should be purposeful, move you closer to your goal. If your lead generation isn't part of your larger strategy, then you're simply wasting your time. You're wasting 2 of your most precious resources, time and money. That's it. So when it comes down to it, lead generation is about taking a message and using the method to drive that message to a desired audience. We call the message and method of your lead generation, basically the 2 M's. So while deceptively simple, right, you will form the basis of all your lead generation methods this way. So in order for your lead generation to be effective, your message needs to have these two things. You need to match your market, and it needs to make an offer for an immediate response. Now let's sit there for a second. When we say it hasn't been done in my market, right? So if you take something from someone else, an idea from another market, and you implement it, that doesn't necessarily mean that you do everything that way, right? You have to curate it to fit your market to a point. And then when we send something out, our goal should be for immediate response, right? So, do you need something?
I do. Tom's got customers and we can't get that computer online. We just put the password in and it says no signal.
Call Blake.
I did. He didn't answer. I'm sorry. I mean, I did everything I could do.
Call Lakewood Ranch and have them get Blake. Okay. So going back, you can offer, like I said, an immediate response. That's the way it needs to be. So when you're thinking about your business, you need to think about, how can I prospect and market to attract an immediate response? Different audiences and markets call for different types of offers, but each offer should have in common is that they entice the recipient of your message to act. Okay, I see y'all writing down, so I'm gonna say it again. The response should be, they should act. So if you're sending out a market update report, right? Then there should be some type of, if you want to know more, go to my website or give me a call. If you're sending out I did Thanksgiving cards instead of Christmas cards. So I felt everyone did Christmas cards. So my big thing for my team was Thanksgiving. So I would send out a Thanksgiving card, right? And then I would ask for immediate response back, even on that card. Our response back would be for every, actually what we did was we would do for every referral, it would be, we had a charity of the year that we did. So we would announce what charity that we would donate for. We would figure out how much money we're going to give back that year. And that would be in the beginning, around January, would have a social to announce that. And then in November, we were doing our big push. If we met that goal, we would say, okay, we've met our goal of $25,000 to X charity. We want to see if we can give $10,000 more. So we would do a Thanksgiving card. Thank you so much for your business. Sometimes we would have the pie that many people do, and it would say, we are X amount of dollars away. Send us a referral and we will match whatever that referral is by an extra 10%. So it would be, or we would do $10 here. We would match it in some way. So we always ask for immediate response back, even if it was a thank you card or Christmas card or something. There was nothing passive about how we asked for it, because if you don't do that, okay, if you don't do any solicitation at all of asking for business, then what is your promotion or your advertising or your marketing basically doing? Any guesses? You're just branding.
Mhm,
You're just branding yourself,
mhm.
which is great, but do you have enough time and money in the bank to stay on branding mode? Okay. So let's go deeper into this. So here we are as the 3 areas I told you early in the beginning. We're going to focus on 3 areas of your business. I mean, for lead gen. Get back to these notes. So 1 will be prospecting base, setting up your database, and then systematically communicating with it. There are 2 primary methods that you go: prospecting and marketing. And so if you are following along in the MREA, right? So you would be on 145. We're going to get right into, but really you're going to be around 139. Okay. So the three key areas, prospecting, marketing, starts around on 136. So prospecting is proactive and direct, right? So this is the act of searching for your leads. So prospecting is seeking leads. Prospecting keeps you in the active versus the reactive state. So active is seeking leads. Reactive is when it's coming to you, right? But when it comes to you, what does it mean? You have to sit there and you have to wait. And we learned earlier, we can actually be intentional with our time. Then you have the marketing. So marketing is also proactive, but it's indirect. It should support and enhance your prospecting conversation. So marketing is attracting leads. So you attract them and then they find you. Okay. So marketing, you attract them and then they find you. Whereas prospecting is you go out and you act upon them. Okay. So there's that difference. To be able to generate the number of leads you will need, prospecting alone just won't be enough. Okay. Marketing can actively give you the leverage you'll need to generate leads in a large number. And we're going to talk about what is that number for you. So both prospecting and marketing have their own merits, but prospecting is the only method that allows you to aggressively find and gather leads from your market. It's, again, proactive. So I really need you to remember that it's being proactive. I know that if I'm not hitting my numbers, I need a prospect. I need to go out there. I need to make phone calls to my database. I need to either do an open house. I need to go door knocking. I need to proactively look for business if I'm shy of my numbers. I do not need to just have a post online. That's not going to hit my numbers. That's not what I do. And as a team, we call it the 15th day protocol. If I'm not more than halfway to my goals by the 15th day, nothing else matters. Everything gets dropped and I focus on my 20%. So as an agent, you should I should know my numbers. And on that 15th day, to me, if I'm not 60 to 75% there on my numbers, I like to be around 75, then nothing else matters. Nothing else should matter. And I need to go prospect. So let's kind of go through this. Prospecting versus marketing. So is calling FSBOs prospecting or marketing? Yep, prospecting. Okay, prospecting versus marketing. Is advertising in the PTA school newsletter prospecting or marketing?
Marketing.
Yeah, absolutely, it's marketing. Is door knocking a geographic farm prospecting or marketing?
Prospecting.
Yep. There we go. Is direct mail to newly married couples prospecting or marketing?
Marketing.
Yeah, y'all are nailing it. I love it. So that shows that y'all are really getting it. I'm going to add one in there for you. Is attending a networking event and socializing prospecting or marketing? I would say it could be either or, depending on how, because I did a lot of that was my thing. I went to, or I purposely, I was already involved in certain organizations, and I would originally just show up, and I was wearing my name tag sometimes, I would slip in that I was in real estate, and I was making relationships. But I wasn't returning. Once I put down the amount of hours I was in there and how much money I got, how much business I got back, there wasn't a good ROI. So I had to change my tune and change it to how can I make my attendance at these networking events more prospecting without being offensive. meaning still respecting the purpose of me being there. So I was a part of some, nonprofits that would kind of like, we do not solicit. And I believe that, right? And here is our cause. So I had to go back, and it was like, I did not have the mindset of it can't be done. It's never been done. It was like, if not this way, then how? And I can't answer that for you in a big scale. It's more of a curation type of thing. So if you want to sit and talk about that, but there is a formula that you can create to where you can go, if I spend 5 or 6 hours at this organization, volunteering or attending happy hours or teaching or whatever that is, I should be able to get 2 forms of business per month. Okay. So in the MREA, and I think it talks about it on 139 is where it talks about it. Okay, so the MREA, the majority of their business of the top 2 lead sources, and 90% of their total business is the top 5. Okay, this is what I call diversification to a max, right? I got into the business when the market crashed. And one thing that everyone learned was to diversify. Like that was like the buzzword of 2008, 9, and 10. So it is easier for you to master and scale just 1 or 2 lead generation methods in your business than it would be to master 10. Okay. What I like to think about is, and many of y'all have heard this or focused on this before, but I think of a 3-legged stool. Okay. So I look at my lead generation as that stool that I sit on, right? In order for me to sit on that round piece or square piece, however you want to do your design, it has 3 legs. So what are my 3 legs of my lead generation business? I like 3 legs because of the market, right? So that way, if it influx or if it goes high or low, then I'm doing well. Right? I'm not dependent on one type of lead gen, and it allows me to really dive into that. I will say this, as my team grew, when I came from doing solo to having a team, I was able to do a little bit more lead gen at that time because it wasn't just on me. So that's something for you to think about is maybe for you, you can't do 3, you can only do 2. I would recommend starting on 1, mastering it, and then doing 2 if you're a new agent. Okay. Really try to have your, I call them thoroughbred racehorse blinders on, because you're going to be thrown so many different things that you can do. And you really need to look internally and go, what am I naturally good at? And how can I systematize that and make it into a lead generation model? Okay. And then what I will say this, also look at what do I always push away? And maybe I need to make that into a lead gen model. I had one agent in my Chicago office. He hated door knocking. And he's like, oh, you know what? I hate door knocking. I'm going to do, he's like, he was in the business for 5 or 6 years already. He's like, I do cold calls. So he was a cold call guy. Now remember, this is a side note right here. Let's take a time that if you are going to do cold calls, you do at Lakewood Ranch, I know this, and here you have the do not call list. So just remember to look at the do not call list to make sure that we're not disrupting people who do not want us to be heard from them. Hear from us. Okay, so back on. He was like, I'm going to cold call. So he would cold call 3. I mean, he was just doing it. He had 2 or 3. He had like the mojo going, his dialers were going, everything like that. And he was not hitting his numbers. And so I said, well, why don't you try something else? And he was like, oh, I do open houses too. And he was successful. But he's like, no, I just need to master my scripts more. He was just really intent about it. And then he goes, I go, well, what else is there for you? Right. And so he's like, well, there's door knocking, there's this, there's parties, there's all these things. He's like, if I had to do anything, I would do door, but I hate door knocking. He's like, it's so hot in Houston, and it's hot in Houston. Y'all think it's hot here? I mean, it's hot here, but it's hot in Houston because we are a concrete city, no air. And he was like, okay, well, what do I need to do? And so he's like, well, let me just try it. He tried door knocking. You know, he found he was actually good at it. He was extremely good at door knocking. He ended up liking it. When he did it as a new agent, he came back is when I did it as a new agent, I wasn't really intent. I just did it to do it, did a couple times. I didn't like it. But he's like, now that he was being coached, he did it purposefully. And he realized, oh, I actually do like this. He hates cold calling. So sometimes we have to figure out, well, maybe what I'm pushing away, I pushed away because I didn't do it the way it was supposed to be done. So let me go back and try it the correct way with full intentionality, saying this will succeed and give it a shot before I turn it away. You might surprise yourself. So here are some things for you to lead gen about. Okay, and just kind of look at it. Lead generation is ever evolving. Yes, I know there's different ideas. There's probably different things on here that y'all have tried or haven't tried. But there are two broad prospecting lead generation categories. There's a phone or face-to-face. Then you have 8 broad marketing lead gen categories from you choose from, right? The market, your preferences, your budget, and your goals usually will dictate the types and the total numbers of sources inside those categories you might employ. Too many agents over and over do the spur of the moment idea of the month prospecting and marketing. Have y'all been that? Right? Oh my God, this is so cool, I'm gonna do it. And they think it's gonna be the best thing ever. It's the latest and greatest. Someone called them and said, you know, if you do this type of lead gen, you pay for this, then what will happen? You will get it back by just one closing. As if you don't have taxes, bills, and other things wrapped into that one closing transaction commission. Then they're off and running. They're spending money, they're discarding previous strategies, right? And going whole hog on the last inspiration that they were given. Well, marketing is fun and it's exciting, right? And downright entertaining to explore. Oh, I spent so much time creating a logo when I created that logo. It's gonna be the perfect thing. And it was gonna be so great, until my coach, which God bless, I got a coach finally by year 2 in my business. When I got a coach, what did she tell me? She said, how many times has the Coca-Cola logo been changed? Should we go find that out? Because I had no clue. 15 times.
Really?
So why am I spending months and months trying to find the perfect logo? It's going to be changed. As you evolve in your success, it's going to be changed. You like something, throw it out there, move forward, go on. So agents go about their lead gen, right? They always begin with a tried and true. These are your millionaire real estate agents. This is what they're doing. They always begin with what will work, okay? They do that first, and they do it with a plan, with a budget, a message, and a target audience. Let me repeat that for you, because to me, this was a good nugget. Your millionaire real estate agents always have a tried and true, and they do that first. And when they do it, they have a plan, they have a budget, they have a message, and they have a target audience. So when back in 2017, KWRI conducted some research, and they found that the top lead generation sources of millionaire real estate agents were online advertising, sphere of influence, repeat business, referrals, offline advertising, so radio, direct mail, and yard signs. Now, that does not mean, and please hear me when I say this, that does not mean that these are the only sources or all the sources that you need to implement, okay? Just kind of giving you some ideas of where they're at, okay? What I would say is go back, look at where the sellers are, where they're at, because that's what your need to be mindset is. It's find them. Because what is the most important thing in our lead gen? It's finding listings, right? We need to find listings. And how do you find listings? Is one, you need to talk to sellers. If that was the one thing that I heard over and over and over again by the top agents on Mega Camp, was talk to sellers. Talking to sellers is not, if you're ever interested in buying, it's not putting up a picture on Facebook going, we just sold this amazing house, this buyer. Talking to a seller on Facebook or just in general would be, this is how many actives and pendings there are right now in this neighborhood. This is the turnaround in terms of houses that are selling. Houses in this neighborhood are selling for 99% list price to sales price. Not how great this neighborhood is. If you want to find your sellers and get listings, your conversation has to be geared towards them in your marketing and prospecting. Now then you're thinking, well, what about buyers, right? What do we know when we have listings?
We get buyers.
You get buyers. When you market your listings, you get buyers. Now then, how do you market a buyer? Can you market a buyer? No. Will a buyer give you a listing? Maybe. But usually a buyer has most often have their house already on the market. They're a first-time home buyer. They are moving from somewhere, and so they actually have that listing. They already have an agent. There's so many things that could happen already by the time that buyer comes to you. But by the time that seller comes to you, you not only have an opportunity to find them a home, you get a referral. You also can market their home and get more listings. And let me kind of give you some things here that I thought was amazing. The typical seller, this is from National Association of Realtors, okay? The typical seller has recommended their agents once since selling their home, okay? 27% of sellers recommended their agent 4 or more times since selling their home. Not a buyer.
Wow.
So 27, so think about your database. If you have 100, let's make it real simple for math. You have 100 people in your database, and let's say that they were all, you sold them all, you listed and sold all their houses. That means that each one of them has referred you to someone else, and most likely to someone who's looking at listing their home. 27 of them will give you 4 more transactions. So for every 100, you're looking at 27 giving you 4 more transactions. And I don't do head math, even though I got an MBA with a concentration in finance. I can't do head math. I'm a calculator person. So whoever's good at head math can put in the chat room and tell me what 4 times 27 times 4 times 27 over and over compounded to. Y'all are awesome. That's not going to be me. Okay, I can barely do 6%, 3%. One time I had a listing appointment and they're like, well, can you cut your commission to where we get 1.5% on each side? And I go, I can't do that math, so it's impossible. He kind of laughed at me, but I just deadpan. I go, I just can't do the math. So all I know is 6% and 3%. Sorry. We chuckled about it. He was a high I, so I was able to talk to him in that manner. And then here's like 89% said that they would definitely recommend their agent for future services. 74% said probably. Interesting. I feel like stats, it kind of got funky in here. Okay. I just feel that stats really do put things in perspective for you. Kind of like, okay, let's go. Let's giddy up and get it done. Okay. So the next, what we got to do, we got to set up a database and feed it, right? So if you're looking at your database, I believe we're on page 141 of your MREA. So I know these are new terms for those of us who are into command. And this is what I'm going to say. And I say this to my agents in my office. I don't really care if you're using command or not, guys. I just need you to be using something, right? Command is a tool for your database. And then it's a tool for us to use for compliance. Now then, you can use it, you cannot, but don't use anything, and don't say, I don't like using command as a way of not using anything. You need a database. And I would say, I get it. I liked my old Excel spreadsheet. Have that as your motherboard, but don't have it as, for God's sake, your main thing. Because there's so much out there for you to use. But you need to set up a database. At the heart of your lead generation program is large and powerful contact with a management system. Okay. Now with command, you'll be able to manage your database and nurture your relationships all in one place. And there have been, and there continue to be, some areas in command that will improve that they're working on. And that's just normal. I was doing a coaching appointment with one of my top agents this morning, and we were complaining how we're kind of sick at doing the updates with Apple. I have an Apple phone. I'm over it. I don't always see, like, why do we need an update? Now it's telling me I have to have an update. Sometimes I do an update, all of a sudden it gets wonky. So I don't know, like, is this the update? I don't have time. I have a business. Is this the update where it's going to get wonky, or is this the update where things are going to go smoothly? Right. And she was complaining about it, and she would say, oh, my children say I'm too old. It's not you're too old. It's change. We all get it. However, it's technology. It just is what it is. So within your database, you can segment your leads into categories: captured and connected. Okay. So your capture is the prospects of people who you have the right to at least have a one-way conversation with. Okay, so that's 19 ways to connect with them. And then your connected are the people who've given you permission because you know them. So we used to look at them as your haven't mets and your mets. Okay, it's the same thing. So with your haven't mets, we would say that you would need an 8x8, right? 8 weeks. Or you would do, if it was your general public, it was a 12x12 direct. Right? So you're just needing to get mind share in their head. This is what we're talking about, because studies have showed, there's this Harvard research, and it's in the MREA book, and I can't remember the page number off the top of my head, so I'm not good at that yet. But it said that people can't, in one category, people usually can't remember more than 7 things. Right? Woohoo, someone just, sorry, we have a bell here. So whenever it rings, there's a closing. So yay, and that person. So whenever a category, so let's think about this. So name like 7 potato chip brands. Lay's. Y'all are doing real good. Thank you for making this example. Amazing, right? So when it comes down to our business, realtors, did you know that it's usually 1 or 2 agents that your friend, your family member, the neighbor next door can remember? 1 or 2. So what you're creating in the beginning, especially if you're a new agent or you're tapping into a new area, or you're going to farm something for the first time, or you're going to get on social media, what you're doing right in the very, very beginning in your lead generation is you're going through saying, move over everybody else. There's a new sheriff in town, right? You're just creating that space for you. You're moving from number 10, right, to number 1 or 2. You want to be the first option or the second option. Number 3 is not getting called. I like to look at it as kind of in realistic times. How many of y'all shop at, and I'm gonna go real fast, I know we're running out of time. So how many of you guys shop on Amazon? Okay, when you do Amazon, do you look at the 5 stars? Like, you know, it has like 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, right? And it lets you kind of filter it down. How many of y'all filter down to 2 stars? Like, you want to see everything 2 stars and up?
Yeah. Doesn't happen.
Anyone?
It doesn't happen. No.
No. Sometimes it's 5 stars only, or 4 and 5 stars, depending on how much I want to spend. We no longer, because of technology, get the opportunity to be third best. So we have to do that mind share of that 8 weeks or that capture. What can I do to get into that one space? And once I'm there, I need to stay there. That's at 36 touch. Okay. So, and here's a Kelly app, just to remind you, you can do this in Kelly, add the contact. If you don't use command, use whatever database you have, always be adding and growing it. Okay. I'm gonna skip through this real fast. Okay, lead generation poll. I want you to think to yourself, how big is your database? Is it less than 250? It's between 250 and 500, 500 and 1,000, or 1,000 or more. Because here are some really fun numbers. 12-to-2 ratio of 17% is a 36%. It's a 36 touch program. So 100 in your database should be giving you 17 closed deals. 585. Is anyone hitting that? No. It's possible though. It works. My math was actually a little bit lower than this. Lower mean is, I think we are at more of a, I think ours was like 9 to 10%. So if your average sales price is $5,000, 100 people in your database, that's $85,000 when you lead gen intentionally. So let's go through here and look at what that means, right? So you're looking at really its quality, it's your size versus your quality. So the first number we'll look at is at the opportunity. To do this, we use a median move rate from the National Association of Realtors Home Buyer Survey, which is that a person moves once every 10 years. However, new statistics show 15, so it used to be 15, so it's 10, so it's actually getting lower than that. So that means on average, 10% of your database is going to move in any given year. And I would almost redo the math and say I would almost use 5%, because if you have a lot of buyers this past year that are now in your database, and they bought since COVID, knowing that they have no intention of staying in their homes for 10 to 15 years, then that means that you have more opportunity, because that means that they're moving faster. So you need to get in that mind share faster. So at 100% at 3,500 in your database, you're looking at 350 deals. At around 50% more, but things are usually like, so let's say that was your conversion rate. Unrealistic, right? Most likely around 50%, that's around 7,000 in your database. At 10%, that's like 700, still 350 deals. At 25% of your database, you're looking around 14,000 people in your database. At 10%, that's 1,400 times 25%, you're looking at 350 deals. Either way, guys, you can still have 350 deals. What is the difference? Increasing that database. Okay, so let's look at some lead generation numbers. So look, if you had pre-math here, Okay, so it really is about how many people do you need in your database. So let's say you had 900 people in your database. You can put your own number in, but think about this. If you want to write this down, 900 people in your database, you divide that by 10, your conversion rate, let's say it's 50%. So you're looking at 45. Now let's say if we had 50 total units sold was your goal. You just want total units sold at 50 times 10% for a conversion rate of 50%. Then the number of contacts you needed to hit that goal would be 1,000. So the first number you're going to write down is the number of people in your database. We use here 900, but you can use whatever you want. Then you would divide that by 10 because we know 10% of your database is moving. Okay. Then you multiply that conversion rate of 50%. There's your opportunity. If you did total units sold, being you want 50 units sold this year, or maybe we're a little off to we're more than halfway to the end of the year. It's like 4 more months. So look at how many units do I want to sell by the end of this year? Multiply that by 10, divide that by 50%, and there you'll have your contacts needed. So it's either going to be you already have people in your database or you need to grow your database. Which one is it? Then you need to be systematic about it in your database. And the one thing I will say, the truth is that real estate agents, I love the shirt that Gary Keller wore. I don't know if any of y'all noticed when it said real estate is a close contact sport. Okay, bonus for any of you, I will give y'all a $50 gift card if you can tell me what page on the MRA it is. Y'all have a couple seconds. Okay. Well, so it is actually in the lead generation model section that real estate is a contact sport. Okay. And here is what it is. Really simple. It's 4 touches, quarterly phone calls, 12 touches, monthly email, newsletter, market, 2 touches and 1. So that's 19 touches a year to cement them and then to nurture and convert them into more. It's only each time, guys, 4 phone calls. I would also add into text. I would probably add in 4 texts somewhere. So now what I would do is before you start running off and say, okay, I'm going to do this really quick, what you'll need to focus on is first the plan, right? Sit down. There's a 3-day weekend coming up. I know most of us, when I was an agent, Memorial Day and Labor Day was my busiest days, but we are seasonal down here, so it could be different. But what you want to do is first plan it out, right? Think about what will those 4 touches be when I'm making a phone call. Because when you're running with your business, right, you don't have time to go back and fix this stuff or create it. You need to give yourself a moment. And if you can't give yourself a whole weekend or a whole day, then say, by the end of the week, I will have X done, and give yourself an hour every day to complete it. So I'm going to figure out what my 4 quarterly phone calls will be, and I'm going to put them on my calendar, and I'm going to figure that out this week. Next week, I'm going to figure out what my monthly email or newsletter or video will be, and I'm going to complete that. I'm going to work on it 1 hour every day. So if you can't do it all in one sitting, right, then break it down and calendar it and have a business partner or a friend or a coach. If you're in my office, myself as your team leader, or if you want to use me right now or ask Brian for it, I have agents calling and texting me, telling me that they got their numbers almost every morning. Now I have one person, I no longer need an alarm clock. She texts me at 5:30 every morning because she read the Miracle Morning and she wants to make sure that she's up and doing her morning routine, which is cool because I need to wake up early. So you want to focus on seller listings. We kind of went over that, right? And so you can see here what that means. Okay, because the truth is, if there's a creative angle to your lead generation program, then you'll want to pursue it. It is to create your message, your image, your methods, such that they are conducive to generating seller listing leads. Always think about it. I need to generate seller listing leads, and I need to have the mindset and think about how is my message to sellers, not to buyers. Buyers will come. It's kind of like you are targeting the football, if high school, the football players, the cool kids. Everyone else will come because they want to be around the cool kids. Okay. So y'all have seen the lead generation model. Remember that your new prospects, you're looking at, they're coming in, right? They're being captured or connected with permission, either 19 times. The old way was 8 by 8, right? Or 36 times. And then you're nurturing them, and it's going to repeat right back up. Remember, you're captured what you haven't met, and you're connected were called your mets. Okay, so now we're at the end, and this is what, I know we're past time, so I won't do this, but what I can do, and I'll send it out to Nicole to give you guys, is a little worksheet for you to start looking at how to start building your lead generation. Okay, and it's really simple. And this is what I say, you don't have to do these exact touches in this exact same way. So if we went back to this right here, okay, this isn't saying, guys, for you to do it this way. This is a way to do it. If you want to add more content or a door knock or a client event or anything of that nature, then do that. But it's best to plan it out. If you're wanting to do client events, I mean, I think I'm one of many people that have come close to mastering them. My client events were basically every single phone call or newsletter was around that client event. So I called you about the event. I called you leading up to the event to remind you about it. I sent you a bio about the restaurant that we're having at. I did a video with the owner to get you excited about it. Afterwards, I thanked you for coming. Then I would call you again, asking you for a survey of where I should have other events. And then I would follow up with you, letting you know how much money we raised for that charity from that event. And then ask you for who can be invited to the event. And I would do that in these forms. So I just themed it out every time. So did my lead gen go exactly this way? I would say mine was probably a 38 to 40 touch. One thing that I didn't do, and this is one thing I need y'all to think about, is when you're doing your lead gen, you cannot do one thing alone and expect manna from heaven. You cannot say, I'm just going to do phone call, phone call, phone call, and I'm going to reap the rewards. I'm just going to do mailer, 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 or email, email, email. I like to use the example at my office is, and we'll end somewhat here, is think of it that your audience, your database has been craving a Reuben sandwich. Okay, they are dying for a Reuben sandwich. If you just give them the meat, are you giving them what they want? No. Are they going to tell you, you gave me the best Reuben sandwich? No. So if I just gave them the bread, am I giving them the Reuben sandwich? No, I'm not. So think of your lead generation and all the different aspects of it the same way. If you just do a mailer, are you really saying that you're the real estate economic expert of choice for them to list their home with them? No. Now then, will there be some people who go, yeah, sure, I'll use you. Yes, but is that really a way to build your business? Not so much, right? So what you need to do is build that sandwich, build that lead generation model plan for you. So that way you can really systematize it and maximize it. And then you need to give yourself some grace. You need to give yourself some grace, saying it's not going to go like a rocket in the very beginning, but I'm going to follow this plan. And when things aren't working, I'm going to go back and look at where do I need to tweak it. And if I can't get out of my head and figure this out, then I have a team leader. I have my other agents in my office. I have other agents from different brokerages. I love networking with different agents from different brokerages, seeing what they're doing, saying, hey, I need to get out of my head. I need someone to look at this from a drone angle for me to see kind of like, this is what I'm doing. What am I missing? I know Brian is there to help. I mean, he is an amazing human being. I love masterminding with him. So he is there himself. Then you also have, one of the things I love is the James Shaw Bold Pivot Closed Facebook group. If you haven't been a part of that, I highly recommend that, because there's a ton of agents on there that are sharing every day. And they meet at 8 o'clock every morning with James Shaw, who just became the new Vice President of Learning for Keller Williams International. So that's really great. Give yourself that grace and don't pull out too fast. Once you've built one, remember the 3-leg prong, okay? And if you ever want to have a conversation, whether you're at Lakewood Ranch or here, about your lead gen model and diving down really deep into it, I like to spend usually about 45 minutes to an hour, because we can really customize something. Then you're more than welcome to give me a call or reach out to me. I will actually be in Lakewood Ranch on Thursday, teaching the vision speech with Gary Keller, which is gonna be pretty cool. I'm really excited. That means I get to go home early and play with my doggies. So it's kind of cool. So again, thank you so much. Sorry, I went over a little bit. I got super excited. Don't forget to go into the NREA to look at those stats. That way you can use them in your own listing appointments, your listing presentation, your buyer consultations, and into your social media about the benefits of using agents. Okay. Thank you very much, and have a good one, everyone. Bye.